One of the big questions I always get is what is the hottest month to buy real estate in Ocean City? And unsurprisingly, March has yet again been a very, very strong month. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through all the statistics with visuals so you can get a clear understanding of exactly what happened in March 2023. Let's dive right in. So if this is the first time you've watched a market update with me, I do these each and every month. I'm going to start with where we came from, talk a little bit about where we are with visuals, because that is super helpful in trying to understand exactly what has happened and is happening so we can identify trends. And last but not least, what everybody is always curious about, what's going to happen next. I will bring you my predictions. While I have no crystal ball, I inform them with data of every kind that I can find to hopefully clear things up in the coming months. So mortgage rates are always the first thing on people's minds. And for the past 6 months or so, they have been very unappetizing. They fluctuated a bit, and they actually inched up in the month of March, just a hair, really nothing to write home about. But over the course of March, they actually went as high as 6.5. So they fluctuate very, very frequently, and they believe that that will continue to be the case as the Fed tries to get a handle on inflation and everything else going on at the moment, and there is quite a bit. Now, inventory, again, we were seeing a couple weeks of 5% declines in a row before we had one very, very large listing week where simultaneously, not as many as had been are going under contract, or went under contract, I should say. So all in all, we're down 5% from February, and I'll get into exactly what that looks like year to date and compared to last year a little bit later on. Now, the days on market are tales of two cities in a little bit, and single families. If you've been watching these, again, single families are on a slightly different trajectory than the condos, and that is continuing to be the case with days on market, where with condos, they're still very low. Single family is on the rise. Now, prices jumped up, and you're going to see that. It really caught me off guard, to be honest with you. And that has a lot to do with the supply that's out there and the demand, but I honestly think that it's a bit of a fluke. I'm going to show you why a little bit later on. Single families, again, very, very strong, very consistent, and nothing has stepped back, which is what a lot of people continue to predict. Haven't seen it yet. If it will come, when, and how much, nobody knows. So going into the first chart, we have the pending sales. Again, this is everything that went under contract in the month of March. We see over here, I always get it wrong. In blue, we have a big step up from February. That is to be expected, as you can see in 2022 and 2021. 2020 being the exception, right? Way over there when COVID hit the first time around. So this was expected. It looked to be about the same magnitude as we should have expected. So no real surprise here, which is why I've been saying that March is going to be a very strong month. It is the heat of the spring market. Once again, it came true. Now, when it comes to closed homes, again, when we have fewer going under contract, as we have for a very long time, 6 months plus running, volume is down, and closed volume is down 48% year over year. And all that means, in fancy terms, is that if we look at the blue bar over here, I can almost touch it. There it is. In 2022, we dropped 48% from there. From March of 2022, the amount of homes that we closed, to last month, 48% decline. Now, again, a lot of that you would think has to do with inventory. We actually had less inventory on the market last year than we do now. So the demand back then was simply way higher. And low inventory is still very real, very much a thing. And I know it's hard to really wrap your head around what the heck is happening. What are the magnitudes? Should I be concerned? But I can tell you that, again, what happened over the past few years, huge anomaly in terms of the low inventory with the high demand that we saw. We're still having the low inventory. Demand is still strong, but it's nowhere near what it was, which is why volumes, sales volumes are way, way down 38% year to date from the same time last year. So again, there are fewer sales happening, and that is going to continue because inventory is where it is. And at the same time, demand is nowhere near as strong as it was, thanks mostly to the mortgage rates and the ever rising prices. Now, again, single families, I'm going to keep harping on this until it comes true, and it will at some point, I think. We continue to see an increase in the total months of inventory. As our inventory grows, we're still around 100 homes. The demand doesn't seem to be meeting it. Now, again, single families, as you'll see on the next chart, right, price-wise, continue to be a rocket ship straight up. And at this point, from where we were way back in 2021, we have essentially doubled. So it stands to reason that at some point, we're going to hit that plateau. And I think we are coming close. Now, new construction is always going to pull prices up. There's going to be more single family new construction in the future. There's a lot going on right now. But I think over time, this will continue to plateau slowly. And I don't see a decline coming in the near future. Days on market again last month, we had kind of an anomaly of a step downwards in days on market. We are creeping back up again towards our historical averages of the mid 50s, sometimes into the 60s. So I think we'll get there sooner than later, given what the inventory is. The supply outweighs the demand in that category. Now, again, everybody wants a single family home, but nobody wants to pay the current prices. So therein lies the problem. And sellers at this juncture have no real need to lower them. So it's a stalemate. Now, when we get to condos, we actually took a step down in our months of inventory. And again, there's a lot of demand out there. And here we can see the big jump up. And this may not look much on this chart, right? It's a 3% jump up, which I'll talk about a little bit later. It's the biggest one that I have measured in the time that I've been measuring these statistics over the last 3 years, 3+ years, I should say. There's nothing that even compares to that. So again, I'll touch on whether and how I believe that that is a fluke. Now, if I move my head out of the way, and I feel like I have to do this every month, I should fix that. Days on market are staying low. So we're going to get to the good stuff. What is going to happen in the future? We're going to hit, again, mortgage rates, inventory, and prices. So mortgage rates, nobody really knows. There's a lot of noise out there. Depending on the source you look at, interest rates are way up, they're climbing, or interest rates are coming down. They've been declining 3 weeks in a row. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. Again, there's a lot of touch and go things happening in the world right now, let alone the country. There's a lot of competing priorities, but ultimately I would expect these to still fluctuate. Now, I don't think they're going to get too far out of the 6% range. The Fed has announced or believes that they will still raise another time in 2023. That should have some impact on rates, not directly. It's an indirect correlation. But the fact that there's another change coming means that investors are going to have to adjust one way or the other. So again, I wouldn't expect them to come down anytime soon. You don't want to bank on them coming down. Again, there's a lot of advice out there that just says, oh, buy now, refinance later. It's no big deal. That's a big deal to assume that you're going to be able to do that in a certain time frame. Again, in the future, may you get another opportunity? You may. But when you're making a decision, you cannot predict and project out into the future. You need to be realistic and be conservative because realistically, this may be the lowest we see for quite some time. I hope that's not the case, but should rates come back down into the 5s or 4s even, what do you think that's going to do to prices? Not make them go down, I assure you. So inventory wise, again, there's a lot of words here. If you want to read through it all, you can pause and check it out. But basically, in summary, it's been a bit all over the place. 5% drop is pretty normal this time of year, even though last year we actually had an increase in the month of March over February. But the biggest difference I want to talk to is, again, when we peaked back in October at around 308, we're down 11% from that. So we do have lower inventory than our more recent peak, but we're up from 250 to start the year, so an increase of 10%. Again, in simplistic terms, inventory is still very low by historical norms. It's about half of what it typically has been in the past. So until that changes, and I don't believe that it will for the reason I keep hitting on, too many people have very low interest rates. 80%, I believe the statistic is, and depending on who I listen to and what I look at, this changes a little bit, but the story stays the same. About 80% have less than a 4 or 4.5% mortgage rate. About 50% have less than a 3.5% mortgage rate. So those people aren't going to move. They have golden handcuffs of a new definition to where it doesn't make sense. I've talked to countless people who want to move from a condo to a single or move from towards the bay closer to the beach, somewhere on the island, different location. But when it comes down to it, if they have one of those lower mortgage rates, the financial impact of making that change is not worth it. The things that you have to deal with for another year, 2, 5 plus, it's not worth making the change because it's a minor inconvenience versus taking thousands more per month in debt. And that's not worth it for most people. So unless that miraculously resolves itself, which hint, it won't, inventory is going to stay fairly constrained here on the island. Now, last but not least, in terms of prices, again, I've been very clear this year that I believe the spring was going to be another strong spring. The fall, I had my doubts about, and I still do. Now, funny enough, based on the increases that have happened so far this year, again, my prediction was that we would see prices fall 5% by the end of the year. I'm going to backpedal on that a little bit, and I would be kind of surprised if that does happen. because prices continue to increase throughout the time. So even if they fall around what I would expect in a reasonable to worst case scenario, I still don't think it's going to knock it down 5%. So again, target here. If you are looking for a single family home, you need to keep your eye on these new builds. About 50% of all of the single family inventory are new builds. And single families on the whole, and there's a metric that I track called velocity. Some people call it absorption. Basically, how fast are people gobbling up the active inventory? We've hit an all-time low again since I've been measuring this. Single family world tends to be in the low to mid double digits. Sometimes it pushes up to the high double digits in the 20s or so of percent of the active inventory that was sold that month. We hit 6% this month. It is by far the lowest that I have seen, that I have measured. And that tells me that, again, that plateau, that price plateau has reached kind of an undesirable point. Now, how much of that is due to this existing inventory versus the new builds, I can't say. I haven't been able to target that. But I can say that having half of your inventory being new builds in the $2+ million range, it's going to be hard to find buyers for all of those homes at those current prices. So if rates come down, that may stimulate the demand for them. But in all likelihood, I think some of those sellers, developers, whoever may own it, may need to take a haircut on some of these. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying to keep an eye out for the opportunity if you are in the market for a new construction single family home. So last but not least, days on market. Again, unless inventory changes, I don't see a rapid change coming in these. Now, if you have any questions, again, there's a lot more data I can share. If you have a specific question about what's happening in a part of town with 3 bedrooms, with 2 bedrooms, single families in the north end, I can slice and dice this anyway. So if you have a specific question, reach out to me any of the ways you see over here. I'd be more than happy to help you. And that is it for the April market update. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope, as always, that you learned something, and I appreciate you for taking the time out of your day to hang out with me. If you haven't already and you love getting more information on the real estate market here in Ocean City, hit subscribe down below. I would really appreciate it. It helps me get my message out to more people to help people make better decisions. So if you do that, I really appreciate it. And if you want to get notifications when I release these videos each week, you can hit the bell next to it and it will let you know. That's it for this week, and I will see you on the next video.